We are heading to Sarah BJJ. About to get some work in. During Jiu Jitsu, we're going to get some of the rounds recorded. I'm going to try to do like a breakdown analysis of the rounds so that you guys can kind of see what I'm doing as I walk you through it. Do like a little bit of a voiceover, explaining the situations, explaining the tactics that I'm using a bit. And hopefully that gives you guys a better insight to what I'm doing when I am becoming the human backpack, the human anaconda, the human Jansport, the human limb snatcher. You guys are going to like this one. Okay guys, as you can see here, I'm rolling with none other than Steamroller, aka Matt Frevola. He's got me in some type of leg entanglement here. My left arm is trapped. I'm going to pause it. You can see he's grabbing the control. I'm posted on my right hand, giving me a little bit of a tripod. This helps me maintain my posture while trying to keep my leg straight so that he doesn't turn the knee in or out, creating an off balance and taking me off of my platform. I take a knee, my right knee is down, my foot's still planted, and I'm still trying to make sure I'm heavy on that front leg. I'm a little seated behind right now, seating behind right now with my weight towards my heels, but I'm going to try to transfer that weight forward as I sit. And then, oh, so there it is. I was like, did I not transfer my way forward? So I sat back, try to readjust, I attack the hands, and then I sit back up and I start to stack and push the weight forward on my hand, on the front leg. Now you can see here, I reach back with my left hand, I attack Frevola's feet, and I try to untangle the legs so I don't get my knee reaped, where he could start to turn me and create a position where he could come up and take the back, look for calf slicers or look for some type of leg entry, kind of similar to like an ashigarami or what would you call it, a 50-50 guard kind of thing. So here I am standing up, weight on the front leg, and I got a split stance, maintaining good posture, good base, finding my center of gravity. I start to untangle the legs. I reach back, he turns me forward a little bit, I pose to catch my base, I come back, I untangle, I push the foot down to the mat. And as I do this, now look how Matty is inverted, still looking to create an angle by turning my knee out with his knee and using his hands at the same time. But I got the foot, I pushed it down, so even if he does turn it, there won't be too much pressure on the knee, allowing me to still have some room to move my knee freely out of position. I untangled the other leg, I try to take the back in the turtle position, but Matt's a savage. He sits out, he tries to hit a switch, I try to follow. As I follow, I maintain underhooks. So you can see this is the backpack. This is the epic backpacking right here. So now Matt's out of this position. I got one hook in, but Matt's a veteran. He knows this position. We've been in this position multiple times, so he knows what I'm looking for. He attacks my hand right here. You can see his left hand to my left hand. He's in my lap, which is where I want him to be, but I want to try to float him over to my right side, but he's going to do a good job of getting out of my lap. And from here, as I float him up, he comes out of the lap, which means I have no control over his lower body with my one hook that I had in, meaning he can now get out and get back on top. Okay, so now here we are again. He inverts as I try to take his back, looking for a triangle attack invertedly, but I'm a savage too. I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to attack the posture, double wrist control with his hand palm to palm, almost like a baseball bat grip. He's going to try to get out to the side, getting one foot on the hip, trying to break my posture down so he could try to either pass, take my back, or pull me down into some type of head and arm control where he could look to set up guillotines, which is one of his favorites, or look for a triangle attack because he actually has very good dexterity in his knees. I maintain posture and go 2 hands in or 2 hands out. Right here I smash pass. Matt tries to separate. He tries to get the right foot on my hip, but as he does this, he opens the guard, and once you open the guard, that means you are free to roam. The playground is open. So now I'm going to take my left elbow, I'm going to scrape it, try to pull it down and allow myself to pass to my left, which is to Matty's right. As I step over, big step, now I'm in somewhat of a half guard position. This is where I want to be. I could have tried to pass all the way to side control, but I like to slowly pass because this ensures that I can get to my back control when I have one leg still semi-attached, as opposed to going fully into side control and then trying to knee slice and go from there into a mounted position or to a back take position. For me, this is just what I like to do. So guys, this is again what I like to do, which helps me take the back in advance based on the funky grappling that I bring to the table. I reach up, left hand, I pummel down. Now I'm turning Matt, and watch my feet as I turn them, turn the body, windshield wiper in, pummel my left foot inside. I still got the pressure in the head. I don't like to overcommit, which is like a super tight head and arm where my arm is stuck to the mat. Now, once you do that, from my personal experience, when you go head and arm and you try to grab that far lat, put your middle finger in his armpit. So my left hand, if I were to take that and put it in his far armpit, which would be his left, and pressure with my shoulder, I could pin his head, but I also give him an opportunity to bridge because I am now connected to his body and the ground, taking away my base. So you, in order to counter that, you have to make sure your hips are in a proper place. But since Matty is bigger than me, I'd rather not even take that chance, even if my technique is really, really good, or not even the greatest, but even if it's good, you know what I mean? Right? Why take the chance where I can have a loose head and arm with my left arm and just keep somewhat of a shoulder pressure, and I can anticipate the explosion, as Matt Serra would always say, anticipate the explosion, Aljo. And yes, we know what he's going to do. So as we anticipated, we're able to pass and get to an even more dominant position. He underhooks with the right hand. As he does this, look at that knee shield. He creates space by extending his upper body away. Now, if this was a fighting sequence, I could try to start punching with my left hand, but Matty can also frame with his left and right hand and start to look for an underhook to come up. But instead, he keeps the frame. As I try to smash, he tries to turn back around. He goes back, foot on the hips, and reclaims guard. Beautiful technique. Goes back to the wrist control. I stand up, taking away his opportunities to tie me up in his guard. Now Matt's going to shoot at the double. He shoots on the double. I'm going to fall over and trap a head and arm like a wrestler. And I use that left butterfly hook to kick him over to the side. And look, I'm trying to set up a choke from here on the roll through. But Matt's a veteran again. And we rolled countless times, so he knows what I'm trying to do. And that's what makes you a savage if you can still get it. So he comes back. He bridges back. And from here, I'm going to try to look for the choke again. But now I'm going to switch to a Darce choke that we try to go to from the front headlock position. But he knows this because I teach this in MMA class. Now from here, I actually felt like I had this choke on his neck. Look at the carotid, not the carotid, the trachea. My blade of my forearm is right underneath, but Matty feels the pressure. I did hear a little bit of a choking situation, but he managed to get out. And I tried to take the back from this position, but he sits up into turtle. I don't get it all the way through. He's going to try to roll, I think, right here. And then I jump over, kind of a la Pedro Munoz versus Russell Doan. If you guys haven't seen that fight, go check it out on UFC Fight Pass. It's actually a really beautiful choke. You might even see it on YouTube with the highlights from Pedro Munoz. But just jumping over for this choke. If you don't get it, like Matty's going to roll, veteran move. Get his back to the mat, take away the choke, take away the pressure. But from here, this allows me to try to take the back. Or I can try to look to finish the choke on top of a mounted guillotine. But instead, he goes flat. He does a good job. He addresses the hands at some point, I think, here. Or maybe I'm wrong. He doesn't address the hands. I think he just stays like a bull because I try to force the choke. Yes, he doesn't fight the hands. But from here, I could have probably went to that Khabib, Justin Gaethje mounted triangle. But I try not to go too crazy. This is actually our very first roll of the day. So gotta kind of ease into it. Don't want to go too crazy. Now watch this pressure that I'm gonna put on as I climb with this high mount. I love the high mount, even for fights. Unless the guy is super flexible, I wouldn't recommend this because then they could start throwing their legs over and doing weird shit. But I love the high mount. Here I got his arm extended above his head. I'm pinning it down with my chin, my neck, and he's choking me at the same time with his forearm. But I don't care. I'm a savage. Like you'll see sometimes when I roll, and I will literally grind my throat. Pause into the forearm for reasons just to kind of make them feel like it's more of a demoralizing type of factor. Like if you could do that to somebody when they feel like they're choking you and you kind of get in their head a little bit, it's just kind of that gamesmanship. I don't know if that's really going on here, but I just felt like doing that. And then from here, I'm trying to get the head and arm choke. I push it across. Matty's doing a good job of grabbing my far lat, trying to get out to the side. Look at this. He still got me in half guard. I have to pass. Traditionally, you have to pass because I don't have the full committing position that I would need for the head and arm. But right here, I open the guard. I step over. Now I'm in mount. Now I got like a rear naked choke. So it's not all the way on. Now, this is Aljamain Sterling versus Takeya Mizugaki back in 2015, April 22nd, I believe. Go check that out if you didn't see it. Third round finish. Beautiful head and arm choke from bottom in the guard. As Matty almost turned into my guard. From here, I lock it up, rear naked choke style, Mataleon. Squeeze the legs, but I don't squeeze too hard because it's my training partner. I don't want to crush the ribs. And not trying to be a an eggplant. So I put the squeeze on, try to get the carotid, and eventually I think I get the tap. I grab his wrist and I pull it in to try to pull it across. Now if I take my left hand, I pull that wrist across, I can pull his arm into his carotid even tighter. And I get the tap while crimping up in my hands at the same time. You can see the way I'm holding my hands. Nice glove touch, hand touch. And we're back at it again. Matty pushes me down. I go to butterfly. I start to extend my foot in the hips. He starts to address the feet, tie me up. I jump onto a single. Matty stuffs the head. I don't get anything. I'm in a seated position. I roll. I go inverted. He fights. I spin around. Do the spin-a-rooney like Booker T. Now look at my frame. Double palm framing inside of his wrist, his left wrist, as I knee shield. Now I extend it. Now look, I'm going palm up, because I get a little bit more flexibility and more flexibility. More mobility is probably the better term in this position. Now I take my blade of my left arm in his throat, the same thing I was talking about before. Now Matty could do the same thing I was saying, grinding his chin and his trachea into my forearm to kind of annoy me and try to put some weight on my arm and get my arm tired. But he doesn't do that. So he allows me to keep the position to kind of semi-choke him from bottom and make him uncomfortable to the point where I can get a nice, better frame, a nicely better fitted frame in here. Matty's trying to advance. He sits over. Now this is a beautiful position. He's looking for somewhat of a Kimura / threatening the pass at the same time. I don't know the correct name for this position. I don't know if there's really one. Maybe Eddie Bravo has something. Now he's trying to untangle my legs. Now Matty's sitting so far back on his hips that I could try to explode and back roll and try to get on top and create a scam rule. But instead, I kind of just settle in a position, waiting for an opening to throw up an inverted triangle. I think I do step my head over his. Yes, right here. So I shoot up an inverted triangle, trap him because he's sitting so far back. It allowed me to get this position because his head was down. He was sitting far back, and I was able to extend my legs because I got good mobility and dexterity. Now from here, as I put the pressure on, his arm is trapped inside in a bended position, like almost like he's doing a bicep curl, and it's stuck inside of my body, my inverted triangle with my legs. And I think as I put the pressure on, I attack his far arm, and that causes him to roll. And I think that's the round. As I go to attack Kimura. So look at his arm, it's in the bicep position like a bicep curl. I come on top. Now from here, I would just settle into position instead of forcing it. Because again, he's a bigger dude. Sometimes it's better to just get the position. Watch here, I'm transitioning to head and arm and maintaining control. And sometimes the control is way more important in my personal opinion, because you got a lot more options, especially when you're in a fist fight. They're not just fighting you and your weight, they're fighting the clock. Good roll. Matt Frevola, steamroller. Look out for this guy. He is a tank. Fun roll, and thanks for tuning in to this breakdown. Peace.